All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today, we are going to be discussing common errors on Form W-2. And we're going to start with some of the general instructions for the form. All right. So we're just going to share the screen here. All right, so some common errors on Form W-2. Form W-2 provide information to your employees, the SSA and the IRS, state and local governments also. Avoid making the following errors which cause processing delays. Do not download copy A of Form W-2, W-2AS, W-2GU, W-2VI, and W-2SS or Form W-3 from irs.gov and file it with SSA. What you want to do if you're going to file with SSA is just go straight to the BSO or the fire website and follow those instructions. Do not omit the decimal point and cents from entries. W-2s require the full dollar and cent amount. So if somebody's tax is $153.24, you want to enter that in as 153.52 or whatever number I just said, because apparently I forgot what I was just saying. All right. So you want to make sure that you do not omit the dollar point or the decimal point and cents from entries. You want to avoid making entries using ink that is too light. Use only black ink. And if you're using a carbonless carbon form, you want to make sure that you press super heavy and that it shows up on all of the different copies, especially if you're going to be mailing to the state or local government, because those copies are toward the bottom. So you want to make sure that you use black ink and press heavy if you are going to be hand filling out W-2s. And I know how hard this is because I have filled out, I can't even tell you how many dozens, probably close to hundreds of W-2s by hand, because we do a lot of retroactive payroll. So you can only e-file using any service for the last 3 years. So right now we can do 2021, 2020, and 2019. So if I take on a project that has any W-2s from 2018 or before, we have to hand fill those out and mail them in. Do not add dollar signs to the money amount boxes. They have been removed from copy A and are not required. And in fact, if you send anything in with a dollar sign, it has to be manually entered, and it'll either get kicked back and rejected completely, or it will very severely delay the processing of any entry that has a dollar sign in it. Oh, I missed one. Make entries that are too small or too large. If you're typing, you want it to be 12-point Courier font if possible. That is what the machines are set up to read the easiest, and you will have the best luck using a font of 12-point Courier if possible. Inappropriately checking the retirement plan box in box 13. You want to make sure you follow the instructions on the retirement plan, instructions that will read another day. Misformatting the employee's name in box E. Enter the employee's first name and middle initial in the first box, their surname or last name in the second box, and if they have a suffix, you want to enter that in the third box. And that is totally optional to enter in a suffix because a lot of people don't have one. Enter the incorrect employer identification number or the employee's social security number for an EIN. If you go too quickly, you can put the wrong information or you can't. A lot of people write a 2 with a curly tail on it, and the IRS requires that the 2 is in the same format as on the typewriter, which is a 2 without the curly tail. And that can be read as an incorrect employer identification number or an incorrect social security number. And you do not want to cut, fold, or staple copy A paper forms when you mail them to the SSA. You want to mail them in a letter size flat envelope and do not staple, don't paper clip, just, and it feels a little weird, I will admit the first, because you're like, but it's a group. Do not staple them because it'll cause a misfeed and a jam when it gets fed through the automatic scanner, which could lead to destroyed forms, which if the forms get destroyed, you probably will not get a letter that says, hey, we wrecked your forms when we scanned them in. What your client will get, or what if you're doing it yourself, what you will get is a letter from the IRS at least a year later that says that they never received your forms. And there will be civil penalties attached to that. And it's just a hassle that it can be solved by not putting a staple, paper clip, or folding the copy A paper forms. And I've seen people just mail everything, all of the different forms to the IRS. They own the SSA, and when sometimes I say IRS when I'm talking about W-2s, because eventually the IRS gets the W-2s. But if I've ever misspoke and said IRS when I mean SSA for sending in the W-2s, just know that I will always mean SSA. So if you mail any other copy other than copy A and a W-3 to the SSA, it's going to reject your whole packet. So definitely you don't want to do that. So those are the common errors that the IRS says that they have on the Form W-2. But I have seen a few other common errors when people are doing a W-2. And a lot of it involves not verifying that the information is correct. You want to always make sure that you've already reconciled your 941s, 944 to the W-2s, and that a really simple one is I just saw a project come across my office yesterday where the Social Security wages did not equal the Social Security tax did not equal 6.2% of the Social Security wages. It was a completely different number. I couldn't figure out what mathematical formula they used to get that. And when I went back and looked at and spot checked a few employees' paychecks, they were all wrong. They were usually off by less than 10 cents, but by the time it got to the W-2 and the W-3, it was a fairly significant amount. There was 5 employees. Wages was about $60,000, and the Social Security tax versus the wages was off by a little bit more than $150, and the Medicare was off by about 45 or 50. So you always want to verify that you've reconciled the 941s to the W-2s that are submitted, because the IRS, when they get the W-2s from SSA, they will do that reconciliation. And you really don't want to be getting a letter that says that you've either underreported or overreported wages based on the W-2. Usually, if you've had more than one payroll company and they both submitted the W-2s, you will be told that you underreported your wages on the Forms 941, because what happens is the SSA adds all of the W-2s that they get for the same EIN and social security number. They add those together, and that can cause a lot of really big problems, and we can talk more about that later. But that is the common W-2 errors that the IRS says and that we see.